Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of Columbus Local Podcast. I'm Len D'Amico, and today it is my great pleasure to introduce Frank Harrison.
Also known as Frank Guitar Harrison, but Frank Harrison will work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And you know, Frank, I've had the opportunity the past, after one of your gigs, to spend some time talking to you and actually tell you this then, but I want to start with the fact that, you know, in 2001 type time frame, I was out supporting local music like I did. Wasn't playing yet, but I was at the Short North Tavern, and there was a three-piece playing right in the glass building there in the front, and it was the Frank Harrison Group.
It was.
And that show absolutely mesmerized me, blew me away, and just the impression that I'm still left with is your spirit, your heart, your genuine love and passion for what you're doing, and it so inspired me that I actually went out the next day and bought a Fender Strat. And I learned how to play, cool. And it was something I'm just eternally grateful for because, as you know, music, guitar playing is a very personal journey.
Most definitely.
So for me, I thank you for that inspiration and the fun that I've been able to have with live local music, and I've done some recordings, and it's just been very fulfilling. So I thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Inspiration. It comes from in different forms, shapes, and sizes, and you just got to keep your heart and your soul open to that. I like being inspired. I want to be inspired. As a guitar player, as a person, as a human being. If you just got to keep your antennas up and go for it. But thank you very much for that compliment. I appreciate that very much. I'm glad I could inspire somebody.
Oh, I'm sure I'm not the only one, man. I'm telling you, just to see Frank Harrison Group and actually, even today, you guys sold out Fenders not too long ago, last month, June 10th, 2023. Mm-hmm. And the place was packed, Frank Harrison and the Straits.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was the 30th anniversary of the band playing together. And that was Dennis Carson on drums and Marty Whalen on bass. And we had our special guest, Mike Crocco, who I call Mike Crocco Stimpy from Ren and Stimpy. And we had a good time. The place was packed and the joint was rocking. I enjoyed myself a lot. I was a little under the weather, was nursing a cold, but I didn't care, man. We were going to rock and have a good time no matter what. And we did.
Yeah, they're still doing it. And it's a joy to see. I think, we know you in Columbus, but where did you grow up and how did you get involved in music and how did you get into Columbus area?
Well, I was actually born in Paterson, New Jersey. And my mom and dad moved around, and ironically, we lived in Akron, Ohio for a while. And then we gravitated down towards the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, and that's where I lived. And like a lot of people, I grew up watching people go to teen dances and playing in bands and all that kind of stuff. And I know a lot of people say, I saw the Beatles, and I did see the Beatles in '64, but I was 10 years old, so I'm dating myself, but that's okay. But I just knew that I wanted to be in a band, and I knew I wanted to play guitar. It just entranced me to do that, so I figured it out and saved my money and worked a job, washed dishes for $1 an hour, saved my money and bought a 1966 Telecaster and just never looked back. And I put a band together with two dear friends of mine who are still alive today, Eddie and Joey Garcia from Pembroke Pines, Florida. And we went out and rocked the nation. It was fun. But that led me to my travels and playing in bands up and down the coast of South Florida and stuff. And met some people. I ironically met a guy named Phil Stokes, a celebrated musician from the west side of Columbus. Hi, Phil. And ironically, I live in Ohio. He lives in Florida. But he told me about, High Street and Woody Hayes and the Agora and Mr. Brown's. And again, I'm dating myself, but don't care. And I was entranced with that. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, well, it's good to know. But I actually had bigger plans. I ended up deciding to go out to California, Hollywood, California to be exact. And I was out there and hanging out with some of the guys from Tom Petty and Heartbreakers, particularly Stan Lynch, the drummer, and him and a guy named Carl Patty on bass, Steve Soren guitar, and Marty Gerard played keyboards and sang. And they had a band called Road Turkey. They were a real famous band in Gainesville. They used to do a lot of the same shows with Tom Petty and Mudcrutch or Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. And so they said, come out to L.A. I did. I ended up out there in May of '76. And
how'd you get out there, Frank?
I got a car. It was called a drive-away car, and
that's a thing. That was a thing. A drive-away.
It was literally was. You could take these cars. The story that I got was that you take this car. Mine was like '74 Malibu, and you drive it for a customer across the United States for them. They didn't want to have it shipped by train or whatever. I guess you could do that, but they didn't want to do that. And like I was telling you earlier, I said, I don't know. In retrospect, it could have been loaded with drugs, but I didn't have that problem, thank God. But I drove across the bottom part of the United States, and I saw the Superdome, which I thought was like a spacecraft from another world, and drove across Texas. That was hilarious. It took literally 24 hours to get across Texas. Unbelievable. And then, New Mexico and Arizona. That was interesting. Hot with no humidity. I was used to humidity in Florida. So got to Hollywood, California. I literally lived 2 blocks in from Melrose Studios, where they had Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and all that. And we put a band together, and we started playing around the local Hollywood, Los Angeles area. And we were trying to play originals and become rock stars and all that. And it was just so surreal to live in Hollywood. I mean, back then you saw a pink Rolls Royce, you're like, you're in Hollywood. It's like there's Linda Blair, but her head's not spinning around. You're in Hollywood. So it was interesting. I don't regret it. It was very cool to see the sights. But after about 6 months, I'd had enough. I'm like, I got to get out of here. This place is giving me the heebie-jeebies. So I
Where were you staying?
I was actually staying. My first place to stay was actually in a closet. And yes, I was closeted, but not that type of closet.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I had no other place to live, and my guitar player had a closet. He said, "Here, put a bed in there, and we'll give you some things there for your what are they called? Milk crates? Yeah, milk crates for your T-shirts and underwear and socks, and off you go." And then
wow, so you had a little privacy,
a little bit of privacy, but not much. But like I was telling you earlier too, the weird thing is. For all you folks that I've not been out in L.A., at least recently, but especially back in the mid-'70s, we were downtown Hollywood going to some guitar stores, and man, out of the blue, I just had this horrible headache. And I said to Steve Soar, my guitar player, I said, "Man, I don't feel good." He goes, "You got a smog headache." And I go, "What the hell's a smog headache?" He said, "Look up in the sky. You see all that gray stuff? That's smog." And I'm like, "Okay." So, about a month later, I ended up getting my own room. I was out of my closet, thank God, and I got to live in a bedroom in the back that had all windows in an L shape, and you could actually see the Hollywood sign. And that's how we would gauge the day. If we woke up and could see the Hollywood sign, it was a good day to go out. If we couldn't, we stayed the hell home because we didn't want smog headaches. So,
oh my God.
But we were playing it right around the same time as the motels. Interesting bit of trivia. It was originally Tom Petty and Nitro, not Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. I actually, we were talking about my buddy Jim Johnson. I gave him a promo shot from ABC Dunhill Records because he didn't believe me. I said, "I'm telling you, they were called Tom Petty and Nitro." And ironically, Jeff Gerard, who is the guitar player in the Motels, he wrote "Da-da-da-da-da-da-da" Breakdown, not Mike Campbell. And nothing wrong with that. Mike Campbell's a great guitar player, but supposedly Jeff wrote that. And then he ended up. Tom said they had enough guitar players because him and Tom Petty and Mike Campbell were playing. So they let Jeff go, and he put the Motels together with his brother Marty. And of course, Marty was with Martha Davis and all that, and they had Only the Lonely, and Marty played piano on that and played saxophone. So, there was definitely some fame and fortune to be had by everybody. And but man, I'd had enough. I'd had enough of LA. It was just enough for me. And I talked to my buddy Phil Stokes here from Columbus, Ohio, and he told me that his band that he had called Shakedown, who was playing the Sugar Shack and Mr. Brown's and places like that, was going to be in need of a guitar player soon. The late great Mike Parks was a guitar player, and he was leaving. And I told Phil, I said, I'm on my way. So I got another drive-away car, and that was a station wagon. I drove again through the lower part of the United States, which was very scenic. And I was telling you earlier, the ironic thing was I remember coming in on 70 into Columbus, and it was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and the DJ was like, now here's a new song by Bob Seger called Night Moves. So it was an interesting chain of events, but I joined the band Shakedown and played in Columbus, and I've been here ever since.
That's freaking awesome, man. So Shakedown is playing at which venues in Columbus?
A lot of places, the Villa East out on the east side. Let me think here. The Sugar Shack for sure. That was one of my favorite places to play. Mr. Brown's on High Street. We played the Agora. Did some shows with the Gods back then. Yeah, man, we were playing, mostly local Columbus stuff. Eventually Shakedown I was in that band for like about 2 years, and it was time for me to go move on and do something else. I was actually in a band called Lizzie Borden for a while, and we were also playing a lot of the same clubs. In fact, Jim Johnson was a drummer in that one time, and my buddy, the late great Tom Howard. And but after that, I put a band called Heartbreaker together, and I started doing what I called the World Tour of I-270. And we would play all the burgs, villes, and fields like Springfield, Mechanicsburg, and Marysville, and all that. And I lived to tell the story, man. We played out there. Those people were wonderful, man. They'd rock till the cows came home. And so I did that for a while, and eventually I decided that it was time to put Frank Harrison and the Straits together. And in 1980, our first debut gig was opening for Foghat at the Alrosa.
Cool.
And yeah, it was great, man. We had a good time. The thing that was ironic, though, was we played and did a great job, and we were going to do an encore, and the people for Foghat's crew pulled our power. They wouldn't let us do a song, and it was funny, man, because we had some bikers there that are our friends. They were like, "Look, man, we'll kick these guys' ass if you want to." It was like, "No, we get the point across." It was cool, but back then we were lucky. We did shows at Brownsville Station, Foghat, Steppenwolf. Yeah, man, and a lot of fun was to be had from that. And then when I put Frank Harrison's Straits together, we were playing a lot of the clubs around Central Ohio. One was Stars with a Z, and that band we played Henry Lee Summer. He was one of the bands that we opened up for. We did Nazareth, Robin Trower, Johnny Winters. Yeah, man, I've been very fortunate to open up for some of my heroes. I will tell you an interesting story. I got to meet Cub Coda from Brownsville Station. We opened a show for him at the Cafe Rock and Roll, which is literally right across the street, for you people that'll remember this, and I know you will, from Mr. Brown's. And it was funny because they had like the what was the bands, the snotty bands and stuff that were all that stuff, just spitting on each other and all that. But Cub Coda and Brownsville came to town, and I got to meet him. And of course, he's passed away. God love him. But he come up to me. He said, "Who do you listen to?" I said, the regular guys, Hendrix, Beck, Clapton, Page, and all that. And he goes, "Well, do you like Elvis?" And I said, "I love Elvis." He goes, "Good, we're best friends now." I said, "Done." So him and I hung out and talked a little bit about guitars and this, that, and the other thing. And he gave me his address and up in Grass Lake, Michigan. And I wrote him a couple times and we talked. And next thing you know, Brownsville was signed to Epic Records and they were on tour with Triumph. They're playing Vets Memorial.
Yeah.
And so I had a show at the Sugar Shack and with Lizzie Borden. And I called the box office at Vets Memorial and I said, "Hey, could you get a message to Cub Coda? Please tell him that Frank Harrison's playing at the Sugar Shack. If he has some time, please come in." And lo and behold, man, it's the end of the night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. The lights come up and we're getting ready to leave. And I hear, "Harrison?" I'm like, "Yep." He goes, "I'm mad at you." I said, "What are you mad at me about?" He goes, "You didn't ask me to jam." I go, "You want to play?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Turn the lights off. We're going to rock." And Cub came up and played Roll Over Beethoven and a bunch of Chuck Berry stuff. And he was very cool, man. I said, "How did you know it was me?" Because your tone. I'm like, "Well, I appreciate that." And then the other one that killed me, Len, to this day, I still can't believe it, is Frank Zappa came in to see us play.
Yeah.
And Zappa was on tour with the Zoot Allures album at Vets. And our second drummer, we had a guy named Scotty McMillan on drums and Robbie Stokes on guitar, Phil Stokes on bass, and me on guitar, and that was Shakedown. And we were playing the Sugar Shack, and Zappa was playing Vets. Well, Jerry Hertag, or Hall, or whatever you want to call him, he's got two names, Mission Impossible. He's very good friends with Adrian Belew, and Adrian was the guitar player with Zappa, and so we ended up getting backstage and talking to Zappa before he got ready to play, and I gave him a yellow T-shirt that had Frankenstein on it. And he goes, "I got a son that'll dig the shit out of this."
That's
and
cool.
He was just so cool, man. And I asked him about the song Zoot Allures. I said, "If you don't mind me asking or telling you," I said, "the song Zoot Allures sounds a lot like a Jeff Beck song." He goes, "Well, actually, Jeff Beck and I were supposed to put a band together at one point, but our managers wouldn't let it happen." So Zappa, I said, "Now look, I know you're busy." I said, "But we're playing over at the Sugar Shack. It'd be an honor if you could show up." He goes, "Well, let's see what happens." Next thing you know, my late wife Joyce is escorting him in her little Chevy Vega in his white limo to Oldfields, and he wanted to grab a bite to eat. And he walks down from Oldfields, and he's got this
The one on Fourth.
yeah, the one on Fourth. He walks
original.
down from
way.
Oldfields with his bodyguard. This guy was a black gentleman. He was a 5th degree black belt, so ain't nobody was going to mess with Frank. Not at his watch. And Frank walks in, and Adrian got up and played. He played my guitar, and that was cool. I offered Frank my guitar, and he was very fussy. He goes, "No, I'm real particular about what I play." I'm like, "Okay." So, but what was ironic was people tried to give him drugs, and he gave them back. He says, "I don't do drugs." And the only thing that he wanted was cafe espresso coffee. That was his vice. And so he sat there, and it was so surreal, Len, because we're up there playing Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss. And here's Frank Zappa dancing with some woman that asked him to dance, and he just gives me that look, and I'm like, "Bravo," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." Frank Zappa's dancing to Kiss Rock and Roll All Night.
Real man.
So the end of the night, we're getting ready. He's getting ready to leave, and he's standing in the entranceway to the Sugar Shack. And I walked up to him and said, "Listen, I can't tell you enough how I'm honored that I am that you showed up." I said, He goes, "Well, I had a great time." He says, "And I want you to know you're one of the finest rock guitarists I've seen in the last 10 years. And this is my favorite part. I looked at him, I said, "Could you give me a minute while I roll up my jaw?" and he just kind of laughed. I'm like, it's Frank Zappa, man. And giving me the accolades like that, it just made my heart feel good.
Oh my God,
so,
yes.
The guy was a musical genius,
So Frank, what year are we talking that this occurred?
78.
Wow.
78.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have had quite a journey in my life, playing with a lot of different musicians. And to be recognized by one of the best musicians on the planet, Frank Zappa, I'll always hold that one dear to my heart.
Yes.
Just to be recognized, that just means everything to me.
What a night. Did you ever see him again?
I did. I ironically, when I lived in California, he was at Studio Instrument Rentals, and he was getting ready to walk across the street. I went, "Hey, man." He looked at me and goes, "I remember you, Columbus, Ohio." I said, "Yep. Good to see you, man." He goes, "Good to see you."
No way.
And that was very cool.
That's very cool.
Loved it.
Wow.
So, yeah, man. And so, in the meantime, we did that. We did the Straits thing for a long time. That lasted, that lasted a good 5 years. And in 92 or 3, the boat came to the shore, and I got off it, and I felt like, you know what? From basically 80 to 90 or thereabouts, the Beatles were together back then, and they had a 10-year run, and I had about a 10-year run. So I thought, you know what, man, I'm going to get off this wave and get on another wave. And not that it was that big of a stretch, but I thought it was time to change the thing from the Frank Harrison Straits to, I always wanted to have a band called the Frank Harrison Group, like the Jeff Beck Group. So I thought, here we go. It's not much of a stretch, but it's the Frank Harrison Group.
The timing was right for you, right?
It most definitely. And so that's what happened. I put the Frank Harrison group together. Had some new members. A guy named Sammy Hoff on drums, great drummer. A guy named Pat Jenny, veteran bass player from around here. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago. Miss you, Pat. And Mike Nugent, great guitar player. Him and I just, it's like fireworks when him and I play, man. It's to me, it's like Hendrix and Jeff Beck on stage. It don't get any better than that. It just don't. And we've done some shows over the years and stuff. And then I got to, him and I got to meet Jeff Beck on the tour with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And then Stevie Ray Vaughan died, and that sucked the big one. Nobody liked that, including me, especially me. And then with Frank Harrison and the Straits, and then the Frank Harrison group, we started doing tribute shows. The first one was at the Alrosa, and then, 2 through 14 were at the Newport, and then the last one was at Whiskey Dick's. And we always donated the proceeds to Adventures for Wish Kids. Kids with, God forbid, terminal illnesses and stuff. I mean, I have 4 children, and now I have grandkids. And, God forbid if one of them got sick, you'd like to know their last, days on earth were happy ones.
Absolutely.
So, man, I lived a very blessed life. I have nothing to really complain about. I really don't, Life is good. I'm still playing.
Life is very good, man.
I'm 69 years old, folks, and I will still kick your ass. So,
I love it.
Sorry, I got to be honest.
Well, you do kick ass, man. I mean, your heart is, and I think it's people like, and I didn't know Frank Zappa by anyone, but what I know of him, very intuitive person,
brilliant,
and can feel everything around him.
Right.
And
definitely.
So I could see where he could be drawn to your style, because to see Frank Harrison, the Frank Harrison group, or Frank Harrison and the Straits with your reunion tour, is a very real man, very real, very positive person that is transparent. I don't know how to describe it. When I see, I appreciate anytime I see you, man. It's like the same, and I just know. You can't get any more real.
Well, man, everybody's born with a soul and a heart, and I try to wear mine on my sleeve. And I just don't really care if nobody gets that or digs it or feels it. But the people that do. And that's the ones that mean the most to me. And it's never been about numbers. I think if there's any line in my life, it's always been about quality, not quantity. I'd rather play... Like I told you earlier, I'd rather play for 19 people than 119 people that don't give a crap. I don't want to play for people that are there for the wrong reasons. Music is such a celebratory thing. I have a thing on my wall. It's a picture of a guitar my wife bought me. It says, "When words fail, music speaks," and it's the truth, man. It's amazing how that language of music can touch your heart in so many different ways and your soul. And I mean, I still do this because it makes me happy, man. And I've been very blessed, and I'm not judging anybody, and I don't want anybody to judge me. I don't have any problems with addiction, with drugs or alcohol or anything like that. And I've known people that I admire, like Marvin Gaye, that did, and people that I played in bands with that did, that aren't here anymore, that I miss terribly. And man, I just do this because I love music. It's never changed. That's always been the one constant thing, is that I get to play music and it makes me happy, and I feel like if it makes me happy and I can make other people happy, it's like one of the things that I've said before is I think it's Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, and I try to live by that. I try. That's all I can do.
And it's so personal, man. It really is. It's a personal journey, and I know that for myself, just my humble existence in the music community here in Columbus, it's very personal, and it's just so uplifting to be able to participate.
Exactly.
And give.
Exactly, man. Happiness is where you find it, and if I didn't know you and I saw you in a music store and you said, "Yeah, man, I just started playing guitar," I would tell you and ask you what I would tell somebody that's been playing for 29 years. Are you having fun? That's what it's all about, man. I haven't figured everything out, but I figured like music is like the hokey pokey. That's what it's all about. You turn yourself around and keep playing guitar.
But you're so real. The person said, "Well, man, I don't really have fun." Then you'd probably respond with, something like, let's find something else for you that you
Right.
can enjoy.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what I do is not for everybody. I'm not saying that it makes me better than anybody. It's just I found at an early stage in my life that this was my passion. When I was growing up down in Florida, I played baseball. I played football. Couldn't play basketball to save my life. That was another story. But football, baseball, I liked, and you do that for your parents' approval. You want your father and or mother to be proud of you, and I know they were. But man, there was just something about when I found music. It was like, see ya. I found what I wanted to do, and it just didn't make me better than anybody. It's just I found in an early passion that's what I wanted to do. And I also realized that, and I said this before, I go, look, man, I wanted to be Jimi Hendrix and Jeff Beck, especially Jimi Hendrix, because he's my hero to the end. I can't stretch that enough. He means the world to me. But I realized at an early age, it was like, no, you're not going to be Jeff Beck. You're not going to be Hendrix. You're going to be Frank Harrison. And the sooner you own that, the sooner you're going to be happy. I mean, I have eventually here, folks, hopefully by the end of the year, a new record coming out. It's called Frank Harrison Group. There is no other. And there is no other. There is nobody like me. And that's a good thing, I was telling you earlier, it's like, man, I think that there's a reason that everybody is who they are, and you should be proud of that. You should own that, and you should accept it. And it took me a long time to figure that out and figure out who I am as a person, as a man, as a husband, as an artist. And I'm still figuring it out. I don't got it all figured out, but I keep my antenna open, and I try to learn from everybody. It's like, man, if you can teach me, school's in. And it don't have to be music. It can be something about life, but that's just me. That's just the way I try to look at things. But no, man, it's like I said, happiness is where you find it. I just happen to be blessed, and I really feel like I am blessed by the grace of God to figure out, it's like I want to play guitar, and I want to keep playing guitar, and I want to inspire people, but I also want to inspire myself, and I mean, I'm really proud of this new record. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. A lot of people in Columbus, Ohio know me as a blues-based guitar player, and I thank you for that. I know that's a compliment. But there's more to me than that. Just, I reference Hendrix and I reference Jeff Beck, and those two guys are two of my favorites because they're so mercurial. You cannot pin them down. You can't say, well, Jeff Beck is just a blues guitar player or just a progressive guitar. He's everything, and same thing with Jimmy. Jimmy could rock, Jimmy could play blues, he could play funk, and I try to do those things, all three of those genres. I love blues, I love James Brown, I love rhythm and blues, and I love the blues, and I love rock and roll. I just don't want to play all rock, all blues, or all funk. And the same thing with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan has done that. House is a rock song, Superstition, funk, and let's see, Texas Flood, Ding Ding Ding.
Yeah, there's a couple blues tunes in that repertoire. Just a couple.
So, man, I just want to do the things that make me happy. And I guess if I can say anything to anybody out there in Radio Land, man, just be true to yourself. Find your passion. Find the things that make you happy. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about finding an audience. Your audience will find you. I've had a lot of my friends put bands together, and they're all worried about, oh, nobody's going to come see us. And I go, man, people will come see you. Just, if you build it, they will come. But you got to let them know where the hell it is.
Yeah, you do.
That type of thing. So
you need a platform,
most definitely,
to advertise your gig. Well, we have some of those these days.
Yep.
So your first album was your first album, your Heart and Soul album.
Yeah, Heart and Soul.
And that was pretty eclectic. It wasn't just totally one genre there, was it?
No. I mean, if you really, when we did Heart and Soul, that was a point in my life where I knew where I needed to be. It was only 7 songs. I said it was only 7 songs, but they're all my songs. And I co-produced it with a guy named Mark Kreis out of Marysville, Ohio. Great guy, great keyboard player, great musician, period, and great producer. And he helped me tremendously. That record would not have gotten done without him. specifically, and Sammy Hoff on drums, Pat Jenny on bass again, and we. The record was definitely, for me on a personal level, was a love letter to my wife. She had passed away. She was killed in a boating accident, and so this was my way of saying how much I loved her and my children, and still do. But there's definitely some blues songs that, I mean, obviously the blues is everywhere. I wrote that for Stevie Ray Vaughan. I had just met him a year earlier, and he was taken away from all of us, and it killed me. I couldn't believe it. It was like I'd be playing in clubs, and people would come up, like even the Short North. You talk about that. Some guy come up to me and it was like he wanted to testify where he was when Stevie died. He said, "Man, because I the next day I bought a guitar because I don't even play guitar." I'm thinking, I used to go home and tell my wife, I go, "Man, that's the power of music, where you can inspire people to do things, and sometimes great things." But a lot of that stuff was like the other song that's on there, "Where'd You Get Those Blues," is basically a conversation between like you and I. It's like we meet, we talk. Well, who do you like? Well, I like this guy, and I like that guy. And it eventually, what happened was that with that particular song it became a performance piece, and I wrote that out of Stevie's passing, and I believe sometimes, from bad things, some good things can come about it, and I end up writing the blues everywhere specifically for Stevie, and I'm really proud of that song. And then "Where'd You Get Those Blues," I talked about Clapton, because he really, for me, was the first guy that just made my head spin. And so when I play that, I try to quote a little bit of Eric Clapton, bit of inspiration. And then the next guy is Jimi Hendrix, and I say he changed my life forever because he did. And then finally, the last guy is Stevie Ray Vaughan, and being out there in the trenches, like a lot of guys, he turned it around for a lot of us, man. He made people care again, He made people realize, excuse me, that guitar music. He made people care about blues music and about guitar music, and man, I'll be forever indebted to him, because he just didn't give a damn what people thought. He's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all about this. So that's a fun song to play live. It never fails. People go crazy when we do it. And then there's a bunch of other different songs on there too. It's on "Forever Young." Wrote that about being young, having a young heart. Excuse me.
Yep.
My chest is falling out of my head. But no, all in all, I'm proud of that record. It was done a long time ago.
What year was that released?
2020.
2020.
No, 2000. So a long time.
Okay.
23 years ago. It's ancient, folks.
But you know what? It's not dated.
No, I'm really proud of the fact that for the most part, I can still listen to things and they hold water.
Yeah.
I still listen to Heart and Soul. I don't listen to them on a regular basis, but once in a while I'll get it out, and it actually still sounds good. I'm proud of that. That's the first proper CD recording I've done for John Q. Public ever. So I think basically, if you played that for somebody and said, look, if you like this, wait till you see this guy live, then you get the whole beauty of the exercise, so to speak. That's, I've been told by friends of mine that they like the record, they like Heart and Soul. They go, but man, it doesn't touch what you do live. I go, well, man, that to me is like a Who record. I love the Who. They're one of my favorite bands, and I love their records. But then you go see them live, and they take your breath away. And that's what I want to aspire to do always, is put out really good records, enough so that they inspire people to go, oh, we got to go see this guy live. And then hopefully when they see it, it gets the whole picture of being live and all that kind of stuff. So, no, Heart and Soul is a good record. I'm proud of it. I'm definitely going to keep playing some of the songs from it. And then the new record is going to surprise a lot of people, because, man, it definitely has sort of a ZZ Top, if I have to talk about somebody-ish reference. There's a song in there called "One for Jimmy" that I wrote that sounds a lot like Jimi Hendrix. Duh. And then the title track, "There Is No Other." There's no one like me, and that's a good thing. So
there's only one Frank Harrison.
Yep. Last time I checked.
So, Your confidence on stage, where's that coming from, man? Is it, are you born with that, or is it just all this
Oh, no.
melting pot? What is it? Life? What is that we see?
I think like a lot of people, when you first start playing music and you're playing in front of people, I'll give you an example. It's like when you're, especially us being guitar players, okay, and you're on stage playing and you break a string. You think, oh my God, it's the end of the world as we know it. The whole world is watching. And it's just not so, man.
Right.
People just don't care. There's like drinking or talking to someone. It's like, oh, I broke a string. Yeah, whatever. And I put it in my mouth like a cat whisker and go, well, that was included with your first drink, whatever. I just try to make a joke of it. But it's taken me a long time to feel that. Exactly. A part of the deal. And but no, the more you do this, as far as the confidence thing goes, like I told you earlier, when I'm on stage, I am 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I ain't afraid of anybody. Nobody. Muhammad Ali could come back from the dead. Just bring it. I don't care. And that's not arrogance, that's confidence. It is. And you have to learn how to have that when you're on stage and show people that if you can't show people while you're on stage, you got no business being there. I truly believe that. And I mean, I've been the opening act many times. I've been the middle act a few times, and I've been the headliner many times. If you can't show people while you're the headliner, you got no business being it. So when I go out to play, I'm out for blood. I just am. I am 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Yeah. Now, off stage, that's a different story. I'm just as decent a human being as you'll find. I will talk to anybody about anything. If you want to play my guitar, you can play my guitar. You want to talk to me about my pedals or whatever. I have no problem with that. But I'm on stage, yeah, it's go time.
Yeah, it is.
Because I think,
and you bring it, man. Every song, every show, you're that, and that's really. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I mean,
it shines.
I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate the compliments and the accolades. But it comes from a place where, like I've said before, people are jaded, and people have that what I call a Missouri attitude. The show me. Missouri's the show me state. So for all you people out there in radio land that don't know me, come see a show. Everything I'm saying, I can back up. Everything. Okay? I hope that you feel that way. I know I feel that way, but people are jaded. They think they've seen it all, heard it all, done it all. And my attitude is, until you see me play live, you ain't seen it all, you ain't heard it all, and you certainly ain't done it all. The end. So I can't make it any simpler than that, man. And if that sounds like ego, well, I guess it is. But here's the thing: when you can back that up, you can say that. I can back it up. So there it is.
How do we stay in touch with you? How do we know? I know you've got a couple of projects coming, but how would we know? Do you?
My best place to reach me right now is on Facebook, like everyone else, and that's the Frank Harrison Group on Facebook.
So you're publishing, when you're going to perform somewhere live, or when your CD, or when your new album's coming, or an EP, or whatever you're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. So that's good. So we find the Frank Harrison Group on Facebook.
Yeah, and what we're hoping to do is once this record's done, I have the expert womp bam boom drummer Keith Pickens on drums. Hi, Keith, and myself, and we are going to have a bass player to be named at a later date, and we're hoping that once this is done, to go over to Europe and play, and we're hoping that once that happens, we're hoping to come back to Columbus, Ohio, and the rest of the world and play, and looking to get out and tear it up. I'm so glad this COVID thing is over and everybody's out to see bands again.
Yeah, as am I, and I think it's just refreshing, to see you here this evening. I can't thank you enough for making the time, Frank.
My pleasure.
We got about 10 minutes, but do you have enough time to talk about the Ted Nugent story?
Oh, sure.
Okay, let's roll. I don't know how to place it because you said make sure I talk about the Ted Nugent story, and I didn't want that to go away. I didn't want to lose the opportunity.
I would say probably and I'll reference my partner in crime there, Mark Chatfield. He's most of you people know from Bob Seger and the Gods and all that, and he's led the rock and roll life, and probably has got more stories to tell than I do. My story about Ted Nugent is this: I grew up down in Hollywood, Florida, and Ted Nugent was in between record labels. He was playing a club in Miami called The Place. It was on 27th Avenue, and he had 3 shows to play, and he played Friday night, and when he got done, he asked a friend of mine, a guy named Angelo Nonocchio, and if he would carry one of his guitars. And he goes, "You, carry my guitar." He goes, "Okay." So Angelo picks his guitar up, and there was all these people, and Angelo got claustrophobic and took the guitar home. And so in Pembroke Pines, Florida, I get a call from my brother Tommy. I have 2 other brothers, my brother Steve and my brother Tommy, my middle brother. He's younger than me. And he calls me and says, "Hey, I'm with Angelo. We have Ted Nugent's guitar." I said, "Tommy, I don't have time for this." He goes, I'm serious. We got it. And we'll be over in 10 minutes. And came over. It was the Cat Scratch Fever guitar. It was the Blonde Birdland. And so I said, "What are you going to do with this?" Angelo goes, "I'm going to keep it." I go, "You're going to keep it?" And I'm, "You can't do that." He goes, "I'm going to put it in the bed. I'm going to keep it." I said, "You can't do." I said, "Number 1, you don't keep anybody's guitar. Number 2, you don't keep Ted Nugent's guitar." So in the meantime, on WSHE, She's Only Rock and Roll, they were offered a $1,000 reward for the return of the guitar. In retrospect, I should get the $1,000, Ted. But at the time, I was such a fan of Ted Nugent's that I didn't care. I was a fan. So we called down at the local Holiday Inn down by the club, and they said, yeah, he was at the club jamming. Now, the club, to give you guys an idea of what it would look like, it would remind you of the Alrosa, right? Sort of a wide club, not a long club. So we drive down to Miami, and my brother, in his infinite wisdom, and says, we can get a picture of Ted Nugent smoking a joint, playing his guitar. I go, he doesn't do drugs. He just at the end, he doesn't do drugs. He drinks Verner's ginger ale soda, And so we get down there, and I'm like, okay, Angelo, go. And he goes, I'm not going in. I said, well, what do you mean, man? I said, we're bringing the guy's guitar back. He said, I'm not going in. I'm like, okay. So I get out of the car. I walk in. Here's Ted Nugent on stage jamming with his Blackbirdland. He's jamming with his band. It's 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I said, hey, Ted, come here. I need to talk to you about something. He goes, what's that? I said, your guitar. He goes, oh, that. So here's Ted Nugent and I walking out of the front of the club to the back of the club. And my buddy Joe Garcia gets out of his 64 white Chevy Impala, and there's Ted Nugent's guitar. Excuse me. And he looks at it, strums the strings, and he looks at Angelo. And I was never that close to that Midwestern twang. And he goes, I just want to know one thing. What possessed you to do that evil, deviant thing and take my guitar? And Angelo goes, well, there was all these people, and I couldn't find you. Come to find out later, Angelo was tripping on LSD.
Oh, jeez.
Didn't mention that. So that would have been nice to know. So needless to say, Ted Nugent goes, well, you know what? I was going to barbecue you in oil and put you in 10 feet of cement, but I'm not going to do that. But he walks up to Angelo about 3 feet from his face. He goes, but I'm going to tell you this. Don't you ever take someone's guitar, because next time I will take your life. And that was the end of that shit. And so when Ted Nugent played here in town at the LC for the Wing Zing, I got to open up for him, and I talked to Scott Steinecker, who, was Promo West Productions, and he goes, you serious? I said, dude, hand to God, I would not lie about this. Hell, I still have one of his guitar picks that says Ted Nugent on it. So I meet Ted Nugent, and I try to talk to him about that. And, the internet's a crazy place. There was a freaking handbill of Ted Nugent for $4 to get in. Guess who was playing next week? Allman Brothers, $6. Those were good times.
Those were good times, man.
And so that Saturday night that I got his guitar back from him, Ted Nugent saw me. He motioned me back. He said, hey, thanks for getting my guitar back. So I'm sitting in the back of this black Lincoln Continental with Ted Nugent talking. I go, dude, I'm happy to do it. I said, I saw you play on my 14th birthday or whatever the hell it was. And I said, you were just amazing. You inspired the hell out of me. And so when I met him here in Columbus and I tried to talk to him, he completely blew me off. And it was like, that's okay, because next time he comes to town, he can open for me.
Oh, there you go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is how we will end episode 13, which is a number.
And like Jimmy Durante says, trust me, folks, I got a million of them.
Well, maybe you'll come back.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to come back.
I'd love for you to come back, man.
Love to go back.
And 13 is a number that's followed you.
Yes, it has. It's my lucky number. Believe it or not.
It's lucky tonight.
Lucky 13.
Lucky tonight, man.
Awesome.
Frank, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, sir.
All right, that's episode 13 of Columbus Local Podcast. And thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.